I have a good one for you guys today. The Sirui 85mm f1.4. Look at the size of that element. That is pretty incredible. The price of this thing, it's insane for what you actually get. 85 f1.4 full frame. Sirui actually have the sniper lens range, which essentially is the APS-C versions. Hopefully they're going to be bringing out, you know, the 50, 35, 25, whatever kind of focal length before this, but this is the first full frame one with autofocus. I'm excited because it's just cheap. It is budget, really affordable for a lot of people, and the quality is absolutely impeccable. The bokeh that you get out of this is so creamy and delicious. We have to talk about this. Let's go through the specs, what this offers, and just the overall image quality. So let's get it. So the Sirui 85mm Aurora full frame lens has a maximum aperture of f1.4 to a minimum aperture of f16. It has a clickable or declickable aperture ring, an autofocus to manual focus switch, a focus hold button, has a front filter thread of 67mm, seems to be a nice full metal design, and is available for Sony E-mount, Fuji X, and Nikon Z-mount. And it weighs a total of 530 grams. You can pick this up now for the early bird price of $499, or it's $599 after the sale. Now today, we've got the Sirui 85 f1.4 Aurora full frame lens. Now this is for the Sony E-mount. I will be testing it on the ZV-E1 and also the Sony A7 IV as well. So they are, I guess, the newest Sony cameras when it comes to the ZV-E1. So it's got the newest autofocus system. So it is really good to see how this is going to keep up with Sony's autofocus system, and will it stay tacky with moving subjects and also the animal, bird, train, eye autofocus, all those kind of things. It's going to be interesting to see how this one actually does. So I really can't fault the autofocus performance with this lens. Now this was paired with the Sony ZV-E1, which has the newest autofocusing motors in the Sony cameras, and it kept up absolutely fantastic with all the animal eye autofocus, bird autofocus. It was really, really good, and obviously with humans as well. So I didn't have any focus issues with pulsing or just not identifying the subject. It literally performed like a native Sony lens. Now, one thing that is pretty impressive and really interesting at the same time is that it is focused by wire, but it seems to be quite linear. Now, if you do manual focus pulls, it actually has almost a 300 to a 300 and maybe 20 degree focus throw. It is incredibly large, not really great for hand pulling, but you know, it seems to be pulling if you go really fast, or if you go really slow, it seems to pull back to the exact same spot. So it does actually seem to be linear when it comes to these focus pulls, but it is extremely inconvenient to do it because the focus distance is just so large. Tap to focus would definitely be the best position if you do want to actually do any kind of focus pulls, and it is a little bit more accurate if you can tap on the right spot. But if you can't tap on the right spot, then I guess it's a little bit difficult, but you'd probably choose cinema lenses if you're going to be manual focusing all the time. And don't forget, in your settings, you can actually change the responsiveness and speed of that focus racking as well inside your camera system. So make sure, you know, you do dial that in, because sometimes you don't want it to completely snap to focus really fast. Some people may actually want just a nice sort of general focus pull, which looks kind of more natural, more pleasing sometimes. But if you do want that fast snappy one, just go into your settings and completely adjust that. So it is time to pixel peep and have a look at the image quality. You can see right from the start we do have some pin cushion distortion. It's pretty hectic, but that can obviously be corrected in your lens corrections. Now if we do go into the center, you can see it's pretty sharp, wide open at f1.4. We'll go out to the corners and It's not too bad. There's pretty decent sharpness, good contrast, but you can see there's some color fringing wide open at f1.4. We'll stop it down to f1.6. And yeah, obviously sharpened up. Still that color fringing there. This is f1.8, nice and sharp. f2.8, nice and sharp. Still pretty heavy color fringing there. We'll do stop it down to f5.6, and this is probably where it's reached its peak sharpness. You can see nice tack sharp, and then we'll go the minimum aperture of f16. It holds its sharpness, which is good. Doesn't lose too much contrast due to diffraction, but not bad. Pretty decent performance in terms of overall sharpness, edge to edge. It's just that color fringing, which we'll check out the LOCA now. So this is f1.4 with the LOCA, and you can see it's not bad. There is that color fringing. We'll stop it down to f1.6. Still, obviously, the color fringing is there as we saw in the image quality chart, and then we'll stop it down to f1.8 and the same amount of color fringing there as well. So that's probably one weakness of this lens, is the chromatic aberrations. And when it comes to the flaring on this 85mm lens, it does seem to ghost a little bit. There are some artifacts, but this is something that I personally like. Gives it a little bit of character, but if it's a clean lens that you're after, this probably is going to be an issue. You just have to use that sun hood to try and block some of the light that's coming into the lens. I love it, so it's really subjective. And looking at the images, the bokeh is just absolutely incredible. It looks so creamy. And because it is nice tack sharp autofocus, it just really renders that background absolutely perfect and out of focus. Now, sometimes this isn't a desired look, but if it's not a desired look, then obviously stop it down. Don't film or photograph everything at f1.4. And, you know, make sure that, you know, your focus is not just an absolute hair. Now, when it comes to the close focusing distance, it's 0.85 meters, which is pretty standard for most 85mm lenses. You get about that 0.8 or 0.9 meters. And look, if you are doing really nice close portrait shots, just dial back on that f-stop, because the depth of field is going to be super shallow at f1.4, and you want to make sure that you get your eye in focus, or at least whatever your subject is in focus. Start, you know, shooting, filming at, let's say, 2.2 or 2.5, 2.8, and then that's going to increase the depth of field and give you more chance to get everything in focus, because hey, it's all about storytelling, and you don't just want to completely obliterate the background absolutely every time. There's a time and place, absolutely, but if you do want to completely obliterate the background, this definitely does that, and it does it in beautiful style. I love the look of the bokeh on here. It's absolutely smooth and creamy, just like a G Master lens. Now, one thing I do love seeing is that 67mm front filter thread on here. Pretty consistent with the Sony G Master range, because those f1.4s are 67mm, and it just really depends on what kind of filtration system you have. But hopefully when they do produce, you know, the 50, 35 and ones before this, they stick with that 67mm, because we don't want it to go up or down. You know, keep changing that filter thread so we don't have to use different step up rings or step down rings, all those kind of things. Now, there is that USB-C at the bottom there for firmware updates. Now, obviously the firmware updates will be for just the autofocus system, making sure that is constantly updated. And if there are any problems with your specific camera, definitely reach out to Sirui, and hopefully they can update that in a recent firmware. But with all the cameras that I've tested this in terms of the Sony system, been perfectly fine with me. But I understand if there are some third-party manufacturers that bring out lenses, the autofocus may be a little bit different, because it depends on which camera model you actually get. And also, talking about the bottom, one of the things that I absolutely love and that all third-party lenses should have is that weather sealing gasket at the bottom. So it's a rubber ring that goes down the bottom that kind of seals your lens mount. So that is really good to see, because you don't want any condensation or anything getting onto your sensor through that. And it's just nice and sealed. I really do appreciate this, but I cannot speak for how the weather sealing is on the actual lens itself. I know obviously G Master lenses are fully weather sealed and obviously great in the weather, because that's kind of what they're designed for. but the price does project that. Now this one is definitely a really budget price in terms of what this actually is, so do take that with a grain of salt in terms of what the weather sealing could be like. Now look, overall this is an incredibly fast lens. It is super tack sharp from center to edge, absolutely insane performance for the price that you actually get out of this. So it definitely is a lens to consider if you're looking at a budget 85mm f1.4. And I absolutely cannot wait to see what Sirui do when it comes to the Aurora range, if they're going to be bringing out a full frame set. So anyway, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. That would be amazing. Comment below what your thoughts are on the images that you actually saw from this video, and I will put a link in the description below if you do want to check this one out. And I cannot wait to see what Sirui do with this Aurora range. But thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Let's get it.